Hi again, guys. Like in my previous video, I had said there are going to be a few other things to complete this section of our first chapter. The four parts that we need to divide this into are division and specialization of labor, where we had ended with Adam Smith's introduction of them. And then we need to understand why the division of labor actually kind of increases production. Then we're going to talk a little bit on trade and markets. And finally, we're going to talk about the second part, which is a very small part, but which is in the title of this post. Why study economics and what is its importance? Now, principally, let us first begin by the division of and specialization of labor. Division of labor and specialization of labor. Now, excuse me. Formerly, the study of economics began when Adam Smith, in the early 1700s, it's not early, actually mid 1700s, he published his book, The Wealth of Nations. If I'm not mistaken, it was published in 1776. Prior to that, many authors had written on economics, but he was the first to address the subject in a comprehensive, definitive way. Okay. In the first chapter itself, Smith actually introduces the concept of division of labor, which means that the way one produces a good or a service is divided into a number of piecemeal tasks, okay, that different workers perform. And instead of all the tasks being done by the same person, it's actually each person taking care of smaller, more specialized tasks to bring out that one whole, good or service. Now, to explain the division of labor, Smith actually counted how many tasks went into making a pin. Now, that would first include drawing out a wire, cutting it into the right length, straightening it, definitely, putting a head on one end and a point at the other, okay, and packaging pins for sale in the market. This is just a few basic divisions of manufacturing a pin that he had come up with. Now, actually, what happened out there was Smith had a more elaborate set of division of tasks that went into making a pin. He had actually come up with 18 distinct tasks that are involved by different people, okay, in making just one pin, all just for a pin, whether you believe it or not. Modern businesses divide tasks far well than they were divided previously. Okay. Even a relatively simple business, like a restaurant, divides the task of serving meals into a range of jobs like a top chef or a master chef. Then you have a sous chef or a number of sous chefs. Okay. Then you have less skilled, kitchen staff or kitchen helpers. Then you have servers to wait on the table. You have either a guard or a gateman or one to greet the customers coming through the door. You have janitors to clean up and a business manager who actually handles the paychecks and bills. Then you have the economic connections of the restaurant, like people who go into the suppliers of food, furniture, upkeep, kitchen equipment, maintenance, the building where it's located. Okay, and you also have a number of others who would be involved in the running of this restaurant. Like you have the health inspectors, you have menu inspectors, you have various other, people from the government and autonomous bodies coming checking on these restaurants. Then you have food inspectors also. Now, a complex business like a manufacturing factory or industry, like a shoe factory, for example, or a hospital can have hundreds of job classifications. In fact, not just hundreds, could be thousands of job classifications also. Now, that's called division of labor. Okay. Now, how and why does the division of labor increase production? When we divide and subdivide the tasks involved with producing, let's say, a good or a service, workers and businesses can produce a greater quantity, a greater number, a greater amount, a quantum of output. Now, in his observations of pin factories, Adam Smith had actually noticed and observed that one worker alone might make 20 pins a day, but that a small business of 10 workers, okay, some of whom would need to complete two or three of the 18 tasks involved in pin making, could actually make approximately 48,000 pins. If I'm not mistaken, that was the number that he had calculated in a day. Just imagine, if one worker can make 20 pins, 10 workers at that rate would make 200 pins. But if they're specialized and these 18 tasks are divided into, let's say, two or three tasks per head, related tasks, then these very same 10 workers would make approximately 48,000 pins in a day. Now, how can a group of workers, each specializing in certain tasks, produce so much more than the same number of workers who try to produce the entire good of service by themselves? Smith also observed there were three principal reasons to this. First, specialization. In a particular small job, it allows workers to focus on the parts of the production process where they have an advantage. And it actually gives rise, people have different skills, talents, and interests, so they will be better at some jobs than at others. There are certain particular advantages which may be based on educational choices also, which are in turn shaped into interests and talents. Like today I took care of a number of home chores. We are under lockdown right now due to the COVID-19, and I'm taking care of a number of home chores and a number of odd jobs that were lying around. And I found with a little bit of it reminded me of my childhood, of playing with Lego and Meccano and mechanics and all, and building things or making things. This helped me in doing a number of odd jobs where I would actually have to otherwise depend on a carpenter or a plumber or an electrician. Okay, but this time I didn't have to. Of course, I didn't do it as well as they would have done it, but we definitely can make do with what I've done. Now, the other part that I wanted to talk about out here was, these interests and talents are shaped by these interests and talents. They actually kind of shape up the educational choices we make. Okay, now only those with medical degrees can qualify to become doctors. For some goods, geography affects specialization. Okay. For example, it is easier to be a wheat farmer in North Dakota than in Florida. Okay. But it's easier to run a tourist hotel in Florida than in North Dakota. If you live in or you live near a big city, it is easier to attract enough customers to operate a successful dry cleaning business or a movie theater rather than if you live in a sparsely populated rural area like our city, Calcutta, now known as Kolkata. Out here, it would be easier for you to run a uh, dry cleaning business, okay, than it would be in a place like, let's say, um, down the road, like could be towards Minaka. It's a bit of Kolkata, but it's very near. Okay, and whatever the reason, if people specialize in the production of what they do best, they will be more effective than if they produce a combination of things. Okay, some of which they may be good at, some they're moderately okay at, and in some which they're not, and even more, in some way they're pathetic. Okay, now this is the first thing, specialization. Secondly, workers who specialize in certain tasks often learn to produce more quickly and with higher quality. Now, this is called a skill. They become more skillful. This pattern holds true to many workers, including assembly line laborers, especially in industries like automobiles or let's say in the grooming business like hairstylists or grooming professionals, doctors who perform particular heart surgeries, and likewise in many other fields. In fact, specialized workers often know their jobs well enough to suggest innovative ways to do their work faster and better. So we've talked about specialization. This is called skill. The skillfulness increases. A similar pattern often operates within businesses also. In many cases, a business that focuses on one or maybe a few products, which is known as, in today's business world, it's known as core competency. Okay, it is that these businesses they become more successful than other firms that try to make a wide range of products. Okay, so we've done specialization. We have already completed skill. Excuse me. Now uh, the third point to be understood out here is that specialization allows businesses to take advantage of economies of scale. Now, what do you mean by economies of scale? Producing one particular unit might involve certain fixed costs, certain variable costs. Okay. Now, let's say building. If you're making one pin in a building, the rent of that building for a day might be 100 rupees. If you can produce 10,000 pins, even then your rent for that room or that building for one day would be 10,000 rupees. Now, if you're able to produce just one pin, or you target producing one pin and you pay 10,000 rupees, automatically your cost of that pin just based, keeping all of the factors constant. This is another point that you have to understand in economics. In most cases, we keep, especially at the basic level of learning economics, we keep all other factors, all other points constant. Okay, so in this case, to manufacture one pin, you are incurring an expense or a cost of 10,000 rupees. To manufacture 10,000 pins, you're incurring the same expense of 10,000 rupees. So if you just manufacture one pin in a day, the price of that pin would become 10,000 just based on the rent you're paying. Whereas for 10,000 pins, if you divide 10,000 rupees of your rent by 10,000 pins, then it comes to 1 rupee per pin. So this is the advantage of economies of scale or economies to scale. Now, it means that for many goods, as the level of production increases, the average cost of producing each individual unit keeps coming down. It declines. If a factory produces, let's say, as a second example, 100 cars per year, each car will be quite expensive to make on an average. However, if the same factory produces 50,000 cars a year, then it can set up an assembly line with huge machines and specialized skilled workers who can focus on their preferences and talents and their training and their skill set. And they learn to do these more related specialized jobs even better. And they work and they work in larger organizations, which makes that society as a whole to produce and consume far more than if each person tried to produce all of his or her own goods and services on his or her own self. The division and specialization of labor actually has been a force against uh, overcoming the problem of scarcity. Okay, so this is about division of labor. We now will go into another part that I had talked about, and I said I'd complete in this video. That's trade and markets. So trade and market. Okay, now so for trade and markets, specialization only makes sense if workers can use the pay that they receive for doing their jobs to purchase other goods and services that they need. So, in short, specialization requires trade also, directly or indirectly. Now, you do not have to know anything about electronics or sound systems to play music. You just buy an iPod or an MP3 player, download the music from the internet today, and plug in your earpods or your earphones or headphones, and you just listen to them. You do not have to know anything about artificial fibers or the construction of sewing machines if you need a jacket, or you just go to the shop and you just buy a jacket that you like and start wearing it. You don't need to know anything about internal combustion engines to operate a car. You just need to buy a car, get in, and just drive. Instead of trying to acquire all the knowledge and skills involved in producing all the goods and services that you wish to consume, the learning process also takes a hell of a lot of time. Okay? So the market actually in that case allows you to kind of learn a specialized set of skills and then use the pay that you receive from using these specialized skill sets, okay, and producing things that you or being a part of the production line where you are more specialized. You get a pay out of it, and then you receive that pay and use it. You receive that income, that earning, that pay, and you pay off into the market to buy goods and services that you need or you want or you desire. This is how our modern society has evolved into a very complex and yet very strong economy. Okay, so that this was about trades and markets. The next we're going to study, we're going to talk a little bit, might be just about a 3 to 5 minute video on why study economics. I'll combine all these videos together to make it one video. Okay. So, why study economics? Now that you have an overview on what economics actually studies, let us quickly discuss why you are right or correct to study it. Not just because you've taken up commerce or because You've taken up arts, or you've taken up applied economics, or anything of the sort. Economics is not primarily a collection of facts to memorize, and there are lots of important concepts and lots of important laws and theories that you need to learn. But it's not just limited to that. It's not just limited to memorizing. Like I've talked so much till now, and yet I haven't used much statistics. I haven't used much data to explain these few concepts. Instead, think of economics as a collection of facts or questions to answer, or puzzles to work upon. Most importantly, what makes economics so interesting is it provides the tools to solve those puzzles, okay, to answer those questions, to come up with solutions to various problems, even in your daily lives. If the economics bug, we call it, okay, has not bitten you yet, there are other reasons why you should study economics. Principally, three reasons. Like virtually every major problem facing the world today, from let's say global warming to world poverty to the conflicts that we're finding in Syria, Afghanistan, and Somalia, even today, the COVID-19 issue across the globe. Okay, all these have an economic dimension to them. If you're going to be part of solving those problems, you need to be able to understand them. Economics is very crucial because it studies man, his surroundings, his environment, the scarce resources available to him, and how he uses all that to produce various goods and services in an optimal fashion, not in the maximum or the minimal way, but in an optimal fashion, in optimal production, producing optimally to cater to his wants, needs, desires, comforts. Please remember this statement. That is the crux of studying economics. Secondly, it is hard to kind of overstate the importance of economics to good citizenship. You need to be able to vote intelligently on budgets, regulations, laws in general, policies that the government would want to come up with. Okay, when the US in 2012 came quite close to a standstill due to the physical cliff, they called it. Do you know what the issues were? This would be an assignment for you to find out. Fiscal cliff of the US towards the end of 2012. Go in for a Google search, study this, read, study, and find out for yourself. That's the second point, the importance. The third point would be a basic understanding of economics makes you a well-rounded thinker. Just like a chess player, a person who loves playing chess or loves learning chess, actually, in the long run, usually has a brain IQ level that is far higher than we have generally. And he uses that IQ, okay, and he uses his thought pattern in setting up the chessboard of life and overcoming various pawns and various situations that he treats as pawns, or maybe, maybe the horse, or maybe the queen, or maybe the minister, maybe the king. Okay? It actually, just like chess, economics makes you a well-rounded thinker. When you read articles about economic issues, you'll understand and you will be able to evaluate what the writer is saying and what his arguments are. When you hear classmates, co-workers, teachers, professors or political candidates talking about economics, you'll be able to distinguish between common sense, issues, and nonsense. You'll find various new ways of thinking about current events, future events, and also about personal and business decisions that you are going to take ultimately, as well as current socio-economic and political situations and events. So, the study of economics does not dictate the answers, but it illuminates, it comes up with different choices, various different choices. Right? I've taken up lots of your time. This was the end of our session 1.1. The next session would be 1.2, where we're going to discuss basics of microeconomics and macroeconomics. By the end of that section, you should have been able to understand, or you should have been able to kind of describe microeconomics, describe macroeconomics, and also contrast monetary policy and fiscal policy. Please again like, share, and subscribe. We need to increase our viewers, subscriber base, so that I can come up with far better videos and more advanced concepts after we finished off these basics of economics. This itself will take a time, but after that, and I'll definitely try making posts every day. Thanks a lot. Take care. God bless.